What has held you back from maximizing your potential?
I know for me, in order to maximize my potential, I had to give up romantic relationships because...
Comfort is the enemy of potential.
That's great.
When I was running, a weird thing was happening, and I had no explanation for it. It was really weird. And so I was like, okay, do I have epilepsy or what's going on?
Yeah, for real.
3 barriers that keep us from maximizing our potential. Any clue what the number one reason for not maximizing your potential? I'm gonna give you a few words to describe what it is.
Okay.
Catastrophe, disaster, defeat, collapse. Those words sound like life-ending to me.
Ooh. Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
I think I can see the world from here. I think I can see the world from this dark bed. I'm gonna make the world appear, and I'm gonna see the blue skies above me, and I'm gonna touch the greenest grass, and I'm gonna feel the wind upon my skin from this air-conditioned flat, from this air-conditioned flat.
Have you ever gone through something difficult and later realized it taught you something that made you stronger or wiser? That was Kairos. Hey, good people, and welcome to the Chasing Kairos podcast, where we're all about helping one another unblock the pathway to purpose. I'm your host and proud girl dad, Neko Parham.
Hi, Dad.
I love that girl. Hey, and I love my boys too, who
Yo,
are here
yo.
with me
Yeah.
in the air-conditioned flat in ATL.
Need some more air conditioning today.
Yeah,
It's hot out
there's a
here.
little warm up in here today.
I know.
I am so excited about today's episode because today we're going to be talking about maximizing your potential, right? We're going to crack the code to what that really means. We're going to reveal and discuss the top 3 barriers that research shows is actually keeping you from maximizing your potential.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe you're feeling like you're stuck or stagnant.
Yep.
Right? You're uncertain about which direction to go in, or maybe you're simply at a place in life right now where you're just asking, what do I do now? This episode is for you. All right? But before we dive into that, we've got to give those people out there their flowers.
I'm excited about this one.
Cool.
It's my homeboy. I met him recently at church, new friend of mine. His name is Ethan Curtis. I call him Ethan Curtis Film because that's his Instagram handle. Go follow
Curtis.
Ethan Curtis Film.
All
You know what I'm
right.
saying? I go up to Ethan Curtis every week. I ask you, how are you doing? And he tells me exactly how he's doing. It could be good, it could be bad. And I love it because nobody does that.
Yeah.
It's always, how you doing? I'm good. I'm doing great. Or anything wrong? Nope. I'm perfect. Especially at
Ethan.
church. Not Ethan, man. But seriously, it's so inspiring to me because I'm like, Ethan, man, how you been? He's like, not good, dude.
Love that.
And he
Wow.
tells me, I'm like all ears. I'm
Yeah.
like, what's going on? He tells me I'm not going to spill his business, but he tells me what he's dealing with,
That's great.
mental health stuff, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And we've had amazing conversations about that.
Wow.
And I've gotten to open up to him. It's just, man, it's being real.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, by the way, a lot of times I go up to him and he's like, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
it's
sure.
just really cool. I just really appreciate that about him, appreciate his honesty. That's inspiring to me.
I love
It's
that.
inspiring, yeah.
I love it because imagine like if we all like really answered
Yeah.
that question like for real, for real, for real.
Yeah.
I think we have a more compassionate society.
More compassion, less burying.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Shout
thank
out,
you, Ethan. Thank you, for real, man. I'll text you.
Yeah, well, since we're on the topic of potential, someone that comes to my mind, I wish I knew his name, but me and Caleb and our friend Devin, we got really into rock climbing a few years ago.
Okay.
And we would go to the rock climbing gym and just spend like hours there every day until it closed. And it was one of our favorite pastimes for a while. Still is.
We would go to the gym at 1:00 on a Monday and then stay until like 8.
Wow.
And just all day
Just
rock
climbing.
climbing.
Rock climbing.
Yeah.
That was a weird. How did we do that?
I don't know. But there was this one guy that I kept seeing, and never introduced myself, never really talked to him, but he was really inspiring because he was an amputee. He only had one leg, and he had a prosthetic leg.
Dig that.
I know that
And
guy.
yeah, but he did not let that stop him from fulfilling his potential. He would still get on that wall, just like the rest of us, and find a way to climb to the top with one leg.
That's great.
And
Amazing.
that's pretty inspiring to
great.
me.
That's very
And,
inspiring.
He's getting my flowers, whatever his name
I
is.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Brother in the rock climbing gym.
Yeah.
I love it. So for me, it's right at home for me today. It's dear old mom.
Come on.
It's dear old mom today. Deborah Ann Parham, you inspire me. You inspire me. So my mom, since I was a kid, she always allowed me to just be my authentic self. Be you, boy.
Yeah. That's great.
Stay out of trouble. Be you, boy. You know, but she allowed me to, you know, to see life through the lens of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she never gave me that. When I wanted to become an actor, when I was leaving home in high school, you know, after high school to become an actor, I never got like, you know, you sure about that? You know,
yeah.
I never got any of that. She supported whatever. I had some pretty stupid ideas through, you know, growing up
We
through
all
high
did.
school. Yeah, of course we did. We
We
all
all
did.
did.
But she lovingly supported them all.
Wow.
You
That's
know?
amazing.
Because she saw that it was something I was really like passionate about. You know what I'm saying? And she supported she never gave me any pushback on things, but it allowed me to see life, you know, through a different aperture.
Yeah.
Right. And for that reason, like, I'm so grateful for that lady, man, which ironically, I just said lady, but her nickname happens to be Lady.
Is it really?
Yes. My mom's nickname is Lady.
That's cool.
You know, so here's to you, lady. I give you my flowers.
That's great.
I love
Yeah.
you dearly, Ma.
All the flowers.
So, fellas, we have to get into and dive into this so important topic of maximizing your potential, right? Now, I want us to start from the ground floor, right? I want us to dive right in and talk about, like, what is potential? Like, define what is potential. Like, is it talent? Is it purpose? Is it resilience? Or is it something else, right? What is it? Let's chase this thing.
What is potential? I think it's what you would be if you took your dreams seriously. That's sort of what comes to my mind.
What you would be if you took your dreams serious.
Yeah.
I like that.
If you took your goals seriously.
Right.
You can't really have potential, I guess, without having a goal of some kind.
Right. What would you say to people like who, because the three of us are pretty darn lucky because we're dreamers.
Yeah.
We're actually living out parts of our dreams now, right? But what would you say about that in terms of potential, Max, to people who don't dream?
Yeah.
That's a great
sort of
question.
the deeper
That's
question.
a great question.
Because I've come across a lot of folks, especially, unfortunately, but especially in you guys' generation, that just, they're not dreaming. They're not dreaming about something greater than where they are. It's just kind of wake up and like, see what happens.
Yeah.
So what do you say to that person in terms of?
They're comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well,
comfortable.
it's something that our dad said, actually. It was a good point. Comfort is the enemy of potential.
That's great.
Yeah, if you're comfortable, if you're staying in your comfort zone, it's a potential killer.
Daddy Hall, I love that.
Yeah, he dropped a truth bomb
That's
there.
a straight up
Dang.
truth bomb
Yeah.
right there.
And so I would say get out of your comfort zone. That's probably the first
That's
thing
great.
that I would recommend.
Yeah.
That's
like,
great.
Yeah.
put yourself in a situation that's going to awaken the parts of
There
you
it is.
that you don't know are there.
Oh my
There
gosh,
it is
yeah.
right there. That
Yeah.
awakening
Yeah.
part of it. I love that.
Yeah.
What about you, Caleb?
So check this out. This is what I said. Potential is humility. Potential is the willingness to admit you got to grow. So I think if you're not humble enough to say, I got to fix some things, or I'm not there yet, that means you have potential. But if you're sitting there and you're saying, I'm good, I'm comfortable, I'm right where I am, no potential there because you're just going to stay how you are. So potential is humility. And that's something I've struggled with is I like to walk in the Caleb land of, I actually have had it figured out since I was 8 years old. But now I'm 24 and I'm realizing I don't even know where to buy milk in the grocery store. And it's like, okay,
Wow.
I have potential to know where milk is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that can be applied to relationships too, which I think we'll get into in a second.
Yeah, we
It's
certainly
just-
will. Yeah, I love that though. Humility. I agree with that 1,000%. Like we have to be willing to grow
Yes.
in areas that we're not comfortable in, right? We have to be willing to take that test.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To get to the next level. I think a lot of times we like to classify potential as something that we have. We hear it all the time. Well, she has potential for this, or he has potential to do this. I think it's along the lines of what you were saying, Caleb, of potential is more of what we're willing to grow,
Yeah.
right? What we're actually willing to grow. And that causes a pause because growth involves movement and change, and growth involves us realizing that, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to have to give up something here
Yeah.
in order to gain something here.
And there's a lot of risk in that.
Yeah, we talk about pain and trauma a lot here in order to get to our purpose. The idea of giving up familiar pain in order to gain unfamiliar healing is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Real healing requires you to give up something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real healing requires you to give up something, but what are you willing to give up from your past?
I know for me, in order to maximize my potential, I had to give up romantic relationships because I got into relationships with the intention of maximizing somebody else's potential.
Wow.
And I did that multiple times for long periods of times.
So you made it more about them while neglecting yourself.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
codependency. It's if I can. I wrote an EP about this actually. Go check it out.
Oh, wow.
But one of the songs says something like, "If I can tune this person like a guitar, if I can fix them,
Oh, wow.
then I can prove to myself that I'm capable of fixing something, but I can't fix myself because I never." So I had to give up relationships. I had to give because you have to be alone to grow.
But that's so powerful though, dude.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is like in an effort to fix yourself, you thought the way to navigate that was by fixing someone else.
Yeah.
Which would show you I'm capable and I have the potential of being whole because I'm fixing them.
Yeah.
And you did this repeatedly.
Yeah.
Relationship after relationship.
I think I did.
Wow. Happy day, family and friends. You know who you are. If not, here's how you can tell. You're a friend if you casually tune in for the chase. And that's okay. We love that. But you're family if you tune in and you subscribe to the chase. Because you know how it goes. There are little perks that comes with being family, right? So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and follow the chase. And if this episode impacts you in any way, form, or fashion today, please don't hesitate to pass it along to the people you say you love and you care about. All right? Why? Because that's what family does. Let's get to chasing. See you at the reunion.
I relate to that too. I do the same thing in relationships. This is a potential blocker too. I think when you don't make your own needs a priority.
Gotcha. So I'm curious. I'm curious though, as you guys are talking about relationship, because I think a lot of times you guys get, like listening to y'all sometimes, your generation, you talk a lot about you're searching for answers to things, right? I had this young lady that I met a couple of days ago. I was in a coffee shop getting some work done, and I'm ear hustling. You know, I'm sitting there doing my work, but I'm ear hustling because she's talking to her friend, you know, about this guy that she's dating or wanting to date,
Okay.
you know, at least. But she's dropping all of these great, you know, Jesus bombs. You know, and she was just talking to her friend about, you know, last night's Bible study and blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
And this, that. Yeah. So she was talking a lot about her faith. And that tuned my ear in even the more. and I'm listening. So inside, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. This young lady, you know, probably your age, Caleb. You know, I ear hustled, like I said. So she went to Georgia State. After she got off the phone, you know, and she was flitting through her phone, I just felt the unction just to let her know. Like, I said, listen, I heard you talking. I'm sorry. I heard you talking, but I really appreciate that you're so open, like talking about your faith. So openly like that, right? You know, and she said, it's the only way I know how to be.
Wow.
And I was like, how cool is that? But that wasn't the thing that got me. Because we had talked just for that quick second about that, she found it okay to just start asking me a question. She literally said, can I ask you something? Like, I need a male's perspective, like outside of like my girlfriends. I want to ask, like, there's this guy that I've been dating. I know, right, Max? There's this guy that I've been dating, and I'm trying to figure out like if it's going to work because, you know, I have my beliefs in God and he doesn't really show, you know, anything there, but I like him a lot. He likes me. We find ourselves in situations a lot of times where it's temptation. And I want to know, like, is this something I should continue to consider? Because in the past, I've done the same thing. Similar to what you were talking about, Caleb. You know, in the past, I've done the same thing. Like, I've gotten in these relationships where I knew I shouldn't have, but I did anyway, right? And so I gave her my advice on it. I was asking her questions, right? But I was asking her questions because I feel like we're always looking for answers when we should be asking quality questions, right?
Yeah.
You know, if we're going through storms, we're going through a storm of life. It's a trial we're going through right now. Instead of always asking questions like, why am I going through this? The quality question, the in-season question, right? The in-season question is more of, what should I be learning from this storm?
Yeah.
What is my lesson right now, right?
I love that. I love the point about quality questions resonates with me because I started reframing how I asked myself questions, and I eliminated using the word why in general because the word why is always a defensive question. So you drove here today. Say you said, I didn't take the interstate today. I just went back roads. Why didn't you take the interstate? Immediately you're like, because there was traffic.
Right.
You're defensive.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But if I said, well, what happened that caused you to take back roads? That's less defensive. It's a more loving question. So if you can get to a place like you're saying where you're asking yourself questions that start with what or how or when, that's quality questions that open up
Yes.
broader answers.
I love it, Caleb. And just getting away from the idea of always searching for answers.
Yeah.
Because again, most of the time we're looking for answers to questions even that are out of season. And since we're kind of strolling down this avenue, right? I want to ask you guys, like, what would you say is the one lesson that you learned the hard way?
I can think of 50.
Just time for one.
Yeah, I've had to learn over time that obstacles don't minimize your potential. They actually maximize it. When I was in early high school, I started what we do when we want to become actors. The first thing we do, let me see if I can get an extra role.
Sure.
So I start doing that just to be on set. I just wanted to be on set and see how movies were made and anything I could get. So me and Caleb actually started getting extra roles in movies. And so that was kind of my job for a little bit in high school. I just did that as much as I could.
Okay.
And I was on the set of one movie, and we had to run back and forth for a scene. And this weird thing was happening, and I had no explanation for it. When I was running, one side of my body would literally, the muscles would stop working.
Oh God.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. It's like the left side of my body, the muscles of my arm and leg would just have a mind of their own. And
Yeah.
I would have to stop running. And I didn't know what was happening. It was really weird. And so I was like, okay, do I have epilepsy or what's going
Yeah,
on?
for real.
Yeah.
And this would happen like every once in a while. It happened every few days, every few weeks, whatever. Every once in a while I'd have a bad day where it just happens constantly.
Sure.
So it took us like 3-4 years, I think, before we actually got like a diagnosis of what this is.
Oh, wow.
And it turns out it's this rare muscular disorder called dystonia. And that's what it does. It affects your muscles. And during movement, they'll sometimes just clench up and stop working. And you have to stop moving.
Even still to this day?
Still to this
wow.
day.
Okay.
It's weird. I don't really talk about it much because it just doesn't come up.
Yeah.
And it's really just more of a nuisance now. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't affect things as much anymore. But there was a time, this is what the potential conversation, there was a time where I was like, oh no, I can't be an actor. And then I'm on stage or something and my body just stops working.
Right.
Your body is the instrument.
Yeah.
That's the most important part for actors or performers or musicians or whatever. There was a time where I was thinking that this was going to take away my potential. It sends you down a spiral of anxiety and fear. What I eventually realized is the obstacles in your life maximize your potential because there's more to overcome. That's how I've reframed it since then. That's the life lesson that I learned after the fact, and it's what we talk about, that reframing thing.
Yeah.
And now these days, every once in a while, I do have a bad day with this thing where every time I stand up or go anywhere, this annoying muscular thing will happen.
Really?
But it really doesn't affect anything.
Gotcha.
And I never think about it. It
Copy
just
that.
the anxiety is just gone.
Yeah.
The fear is totally gone because over time I've switched that perspective to, okay, no, that this gives me more potential because of what I get to overcome now.
That's great. Yeah, good. I think a lesson I learned the hard way is that being alone is good. Being alone is good. I've always considered being alone to be a bad thing, but I've learned it's a good thing. It can be a good thing. And the hard part was that the cure for loneliness is being lonely. So the way you learn how to be alone is making yourself be alone, is to be uncomfortable and be alone. I used to use community as a crutch instead of a support to my life. So I needed to have a bunch of friends around me. I needed to have a girlfriend that I could fix or friends around me I could fix, or to keep myself so occupied so I never had to just sit alone and deal with my own crap that I'm going through.
I'm going to start calling
But-
you the fixer.
Yeah, you should. Although I'm working on it now. I'm only fixing 3 people right now.
Only
Used to
3.
used to be 10 at a time. But the way I learned that lesson was God really put me in a place of life where my community grew thin, and I got out of a relationship. I had free time, and I was alone. And seriously, maybe there's people out there that relate. It was hard, just being alone and sitting there dealing with bad anxiety, all that stuff. But now it's amazing. I can be alone. I can have, this sounds crazy, but I can have an entire day where I don't talk to anyone. And last year, Caleb didn't do that.
Wow.
Caleb had to go do something. I have to talk to someone or else. Yes, but learning how to be alone is the lesson I learned.
I love that. So what was there one thing that or one thought that just happened one day that made you realize okay, I can't keep doing that. I have to. Was it something that you went through specific, where it's an awakening moment where you realize I'm okay being alone and still?
Well, first thing I was going to say is there was the initial thought when I realized I needed to fix this, which was I realized that even friends will fail you, or people will always fail you. It's that I can't make other people my God, basically. I can't.
Right.
Max can't be my God that keeps me whole and confident. It has to be God.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I have to be alone with him. So that's what triggered it. Is I lost
Gotcha.
some friends, I lost some community, I was forced to be alone, and then after months of that, then I had a new thought, which was like, I just went the whole day alone. And it sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
that was a win for Caleb.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely, it was a win because it literally, it really speaks to the point of what we were talking about earlier. Like, you literally had to give up something. You lost something that was familiar in order for you to gain something that was unfamiliar. Being alone was unfamiliar for you, but you found it as a power.
Yeah, and it enables, I can now maximize my potential.
I love that.
Because I have time to focus on it instead of just, I'll maximize your potential or whatever. So,
Totally get it.
real quick, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our social media sites, Chasing Kairos Podcast, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, all social media. We're there posting banging clips and exclusive content like what special guests we have coming on soon, because we got some coming. Give us a follow. We love you guys. Back to the episode.
We are talking about maximizing your potential. And right now we're going to discuss these 3 barriers that keep us. Yes, there are 3 of them. 3 barriers that keep us from maximizing our potential.
Okay.
Let's go.
Right? When I was doing the research on this, I found it interesting. The number 1 barrier, which we'll get to last, I didn't find as a, surprise at all. I was like, yeah, I think we're all kind of guilty of that. But the other 2, I was like, I get it. Guilty, right? But this first barrier, negative beliefs.
Negative beliefs.
Your negative beliefs. Like, when you think about that as the number 3 barrier to you personally being able to maximize your God-given potential, what does that make you feel like in terms of like how you get around or overcome or just even face or deal with that barrier?
The beliefs thing really resonates with me because my counselor, his whole philosophy is based on beliefs. So your anxiety, the root is a negative belief. It's a belief. You can just identify what your beliefs are. So one of mine was, and sometimes is, something's wrong with me. So I believe something is wrong with me. And that caused all these anxieties in my life of, I might have cancer, or I might have this problem, or
Wow.
I can't think well, all just because I was believing about myself, something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
But the encouragement I'd offer is you can change your beliefs. And I didn't know that. I was like, nah,
That's great.
that's who I am.
Yeah.
I believe that. Sure. You can change it. Look yourself in the mirror every day for an hour a day and say, nothing's wrong with you.
That's right.
I
Sure.
believe nothing's wrong with you. Declare it. You can change that belief. So if you believe I don't have any potential, change that. You can change it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. What are you
Yeah.
thinking, Max?
For me, I frame it, I think, as self-limiting beliefs. Failing to reach the marks I set for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Putting yourself in a box and sort of looking at yourself like a math equation. And if it doesn't come out to this number, you're flawed and you're messed up. And putting all my self-worth, I think, in what I do. Tying my identity and my worth up with how perfectly I can perform
Sure.
and stuff
Sure.
like that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. No, I get it. That certainly impacts me that way. When I think about the negative beliefs, or the trauma that was, it you have to constantly fight against past identity,
Yeah.
right? Which creates those negative beliefs. Like, I'm not that. I am this. I found this part of me now that speaks to meet my forward progression and moving
Yeah.
forward and my growth, right? Opposed to before, the negative belief was more so finding myself in a capsule of guilt, right? Because I had done this or caused that, and I just become guilty
Yeah.
about it, right? Just
Yeah.
stay there in that space of guilt. And all I'm doing is just creating massive negative beliefs about myself silently quietly I'm doing it, while performing on the outside, pretending like I'm not feeling any of that.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, no, those negative beliefs I have about myself are totally blocking the pathway for me maximizing my potential, right?
For me, there's a perfectionism that comes into this. I have the same thing. I obsess about my past mistakes and my past failures.
Yeah.
And there's that perfectionism. It's like, if I'm not perfect, I'm nothing.
It's that belief. I'm
Yeah.
not good enough.
Yeah,
I'm not good
that
enough.
thing, man.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough, and I think so many people out there, so many folks who listen to us and watch us understand exactly what you mean when you're saying that.
I wanted to ask you, how do you change a negative belief you have about yourself? What is the process you went through to change that?
I think for me, it was about like, there has to be more to my life than this place of pain. Because listen, when those negative thoughts start to eat you up early in the morning, middle of the day, late at night, it's excruciating. You can't focus. You can't be who you know you were created to be. I am a natural creative. And when I figured out that I couldn't perform, I couldn't create because of those negative thoughts and the traumas that I was dealing with, when I realized I couldn't create, it was blockage, right? So for me, I was desperate, right?
Yeah.
I was desperate, and I refused to stay in that place of what we talked about earlier. I refused to stay in that place of non-growth.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it is just recognizing something you realize you're believing about yourself and being like, I don't want to believe that anymore. So you force
Yeah.
yourself into a different mindset.
Yeah. It's that recognizing that you don't want to be that anymore, and also recognizing what you know deep down inside of you, what you do want to be, who you want to be. You know what I'm saying? And again, for me, that who I wanted to be, I know was so closely related to my creativity. And like I said, when I can't create, there's a problem. For me, there's a pause of like, whoa, there's an awareness time. That awareness button starts to beep, 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 beep. Aware, where are you? Where are you? So for me, when I'm out of creative pocket, I know I'm out of alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connecting back to what we were talking about at the beginning of being a dreamer, having a purpose.
Absolutely.
That is one of the benefits of that, is it's a good alarm system. Like,
Totally.
if you drift too far away from those things that make you who you are, the alarms will start to go off and be like, you need to look at some of this and fix some of this and change something.
Exactly. They would start to go off, and it's like into a car. Caleb, you've mentioned before about the engine, but even thinking about it this way, Max, what you're saying, like, it's like when your car is out of alignment. It either drifts to the left or it's drifting heavy to the right? But when you take that car into the shop, man, and they align that baby and put it right in the middle where it's supposed to go, you can get on the highway and go for a nice little spill
Yeah.
without touching the wheel, because now it's aligned. Now it's driving and functioning in the purpose that it was meant to function in alignment.
Right. Yeah.
This way. We're wired the same way, and when those negative thoughts creep in, the trauma from the past creeps in, what does it do? It takes our alignment off, and we start drifting to the left. We start drifting to the right.
Yeah.
And until we get that beep, 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 awareness.
Yeah, and awareness of, I love what you said, how you have to know who you want to be. Because I think certainly a lot of people in their 20s, like us, we're in a place where we don't really know who we are, and we don't know who we want to be either. So
Yeah.
it's just floating, like, at least for me, it's like I have to decide who I want to
Who you
be.
wanna
So there's
be.
a goal. The car, at least it has to go straight.
Yeah.
So they know how to dial in the wheels or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It all ties back into the purpose
Yeah.
of where of who you are and what you're supposed to be doing in your life in the bigger picture of it all, right? Even in the relationship space. You know what I'm saying? Because whoever is there for you as your partner in crime, right? The one that you're willing to spend however long moving forward in life with, That's a big decision when it comes to purpose. It's a huge decision when it comes to purpose. And it speaks to this next barrier that research said is a block for us, right? Which is lack of support.
Yes.
Yep.
Lack of support. If you do not have a strong, reliable, intentional support team around you, oh yeah, you're definitely gonna be faced with some potential blockers
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
100%.
for me, support has been huge. It's been huge along my journey of seeking and finding purpose in life. You know, I cannot tell you how many Kairos moments I've had along the way that came in the form of support. Right? You know, you guys heard my best friend Chris Jackson on some episodes back, you know, talking about just our journey of like how we held each other up during rough times of life, during school, post college, before the deals, after the deals, you know, in the middle of relationships gone bad, you know, at the wedding, the end of the marriage, you know, those times, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, where we've had to, you know, to really support, you know, each other. And without that, I don't know where I would personally be in terms of like maximizing my potential. You
Yeah.
know, it's important to know that you have that. That's why I brought up my mom as the person I was giving my flowers to. Because no matter what goes on in my life, I know I have that woman as the core of my support system.
Yeah.
As the token Gen Zers here on the podcast, I think the traps that our generation can sometimes fall into, and that I've fallen into at times, is one, mistaking validation for support. Because
Copy that.
yeah, with the social media stuff, the whole online culture, a lot of times if we don't have support, I'll just post a picture on Instagram, see how many likes I can get, and that'll sort of fill that support bucket
Right.
superficially
Right. Wow.
and keep us going for another few days.
Yeah.
And then until we do another post.
Wow.
To get that next little hit of support. But it's not real. It's not real community.
Yeah.
So I think that's big for us, especially, is find like real support in
Not
the
that-
yeah.
real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that drug, not that dopamine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and real
Dopamine.
support sometimes is it's honest, so it's not always just a like. It's not always love. Sometimes it's
Right,
hard
sure,
truths they got to
sure.
tell you.
That's right,
And so
yeah.
you got to be open to that as well.
And then the other trap I was going to mention is when you do have that real support, failing to actually make your needs a priority. Because then if other people don't know what you need, there's
Yeah.
no way they can provide it. So
Say that.
yeah, and that's one of my biggest learning curves in life that I've had to really get a grasp on. Same thing you were saying about the relationship stuff. Is it's okay to have needs.
That's right.
It's okay to communicate your needs.
Yeah. And not keep people in oblivion to
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And you definitely don't want to fail to communicate all your needs, but then expect them to still get met.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
That
then you get resentful and you start getting passive aggressive and
Yeah.
everything falls apart.
Oh, we love passive aggressive behavior.
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it feels great.
Yeah.
We all love that.
Yeah. So both of those things, from a personal level and just from looking at our generation, I think those two things are real things to look at, things to watch out for the second point.
So any clue what the number one reason for not maximizing your potential? I'm going to give you a few words to describe what it is.
Okay.
Catastrophe. Disaster. What else we have? Defeat.
Okay.
Collapse.
Oh man.
Those words sound like life ending to me, right? the fear of failure.
Ooh. Yep. That's it.
Yeah.
Simply the fear, not simply, but the fear of failure.
That'll
Yep.
stop you from doing anything.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
When you feel like,
Oh man.
I'm not going to do this because I don't want to feel that, what that feels like again.
Yeah.
Over there, right? I was talking to someone just this past weekend who's very dear to me. Young lady who's very dear to me. And she's struggling to make a decision of whether or not she wants to go back into an industry that she feels like really, really harmed her and just mentally, emotionally, harmed her. And she's scared out of her mind to go back into that space, though she's having that nagging, tugging,
Yeah.
to come back and to go back and give another shot at it, right? But she's scared. She's so afraid. And I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But for me, one of the greatest, phrases we can always keep in our back pocket, front pocket, is always just that idea of what if.
Yeah.
What if?
Childlike sort of.
Yeah.
What
that
if?
What if? But what if it works out different this time?
Yeah.
So for you guys, like what has been that journey for you in terms of like really facing fear head on when you're scared out of your mind that this thing could collapse, it could totally be a failure, and that's what's gonna keep me.
I'm in that right now in the relationship space. Because once you go through a few rough breakups,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't want to do that again.
Dig that, Max. Dig that.
I didn't enjoy that enough to want to give it another go unless I'm
Yeah.
really confident that it could be something.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but there's a part of me that's just like, I'm doing all right
Yeah.
as a single guy. Maybe I'll just be single until I'm 90. And then-
That's interesting. I get that. So with that mentality, like, do you desire? If you don't desire the relationship, okay, right? For those reasons, just because, like, whoa, that was a lot. It was ... It was whatever it was, and it's put that fear in your heart. But do you desire children in life?
yeah, I think.
I might not be getting enough of you.
Yeah, even that. There's a fear of failure there too, for sure, of the children thing, because that's you don't want to fail that one. That's
Sure.
that's the biggest
Sure.
responsibility.
So I get, and listen, I totally get it. But what if your purpose is literally linked to a future relationship that is linked to future children?
Yeah,
Right.
and it probably is, because that's that's where the most meaning and purpose and fulfillment lies, I think, is in those relationships.
So is that reason enough to make you fight through the fear of failing?
Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it had for all of us, because you're not alone. Just because it's in, you guys are talking about it from the Gen Z perspective, but even for me, the idea of like, wow, yeah, that starting all over again in a relationship where some days I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And some days I'm like, nah, I'm not. I'm so not, and I'm good, right? But then to think about just like, what if I'm looking at it wrong? What if I'm looking at it just through the lens of like, well, I don't want to go through that again, versus looking at it through the lens of, I could find new purpose and new meaning in life
Yeah.
that comes in the form of a wonderful person, a wonderful woman that I've never met before.
That's I was going to comment when you said the what if. In my mind, it was immediately like negative. What if is negative. But then I realized, wait a second,
Sure.
your what ifs can be positive.
Absolutely, they can.
And
They
so-
need
Yeah.
to be more positive.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you get in a habit of making every what if a positive, What it could be, like you said, what if this next girl I date, it's just a horrible breakup again? Why not think, well, what if it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me? You know, that'll change how you live your life.
That's true. That's facts. Yeah.
The what
I'm
ifs.
hoping I'm internalizing this right now. And it'll
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to realize where we are with that in terms of proximity to fear of failure.
Yeah.
What has held you back from maximizing your potential?
For me, I mean, oh man, there's a little bit of all three of those in there: fear of failure, lack of support, and trauma, negative beliefs. But I think the main thing that has held me back from maximizing my potential is negative beliefs. And the specific belief that has held me back for a while is I can't handle pain or I can't handle discomfort. That belief right there keeps me from taking risks because what if I can't handle a negative outcome? But there it is right there. There's that what if.
Yeah.
I should change the what if to, or what if it's the best risk I ever
Yeah.
took. But that has held me back, I admit. What if I can't handle the pain? But I've reframed that in the sense that I have to go through pain to prove to myself I can handle it. There has to be an opportunity for me to show myself, I can handle if I fail it, or I can handle if it hurts.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm more in that fear of failure category. My version of the fear of failure, which is sort of, like we talked about earlier, sort of a perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, I don't even want to try.
Yeah.
I have that in my brain. So I don't even want to get into something with a girl because it's not exactly perfect, and I'm afraid that's going to lead to failure at the end of the day. And it can be true of creative projects and stuff too.
Yeah.
But what I'm still in the process of learning is being okay with taking imperfect action, because that's how you reach your potential. Is you just have to take action, and it'll unlock, like we talked about earlier, it'll unlock the parts of yourself you didn't know were there. So, but if you wait around for the perfect action to take, it's never going to come,
Right.
or it's going to take 5 years. So take imperfect action. That's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
Take imperfect
action, and then that'll build to something
Yeah.
that ends up being what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
One of the things I really want you guys here and you guys out there to be left with is that those mistakes that we've made, the failures that we've qualified as catastrophe, disaster, all of those things, and just our past pains, period. I want you to realize that those are the very things that become the soil to growth.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I hope that you guys are more curious today, more aware today from watching and being a part of this episode, because we've got to continue this journey of finding and getting ourselves closer and closer
Yeah.
to our purpose.
Got to.
All right?
Facts.
Lastly, family, there's one fun thing I want you to do for us. I want you to come up with what I'm calling a personal growth statement. What is that? It's that one sentence where you're describing what maximizing your potential actually looks like, right? It may look like, I am not letting fear stop me from going into the rooms that I know I belong in. Or it could be, from now on, I am trusting my voice and using it to lead. All right? And once you come up with that statement, I want you to do us a favor and drop it in those comments for us, all right? Because we want to hear from you, because we love you and we want to know what you're thinking.
And here's a little something we want you to remember.
You matter, and you have so much to offer to this world.
So keep chasing your Kairos, because soon it's going to be chasing you. See you soon.